So, what do you do when you're doing all the basics right? Doing better and taking care of yourself, lifestyle, eating better, sleeping better, maybe educating yourself, doing your best to do self-development, when you're still feeling the pain and you're still having trouble letting go of the suffering. Then what? This is a response to a comment I had on a video I did in the past called I used to feel hopeless, right? Completely stuck, and how I got out of a nightmare of a life that I used to felt that I was living. And someone commented, so what if you're doing all these things? Because in the video I was talking about how one step at a time I learned to take care of myself, and through that process really learning to love myself through the process. So what happens when you're doing all those things and you're still feeling the pain and you're still stuck, right? You still go down into it. And this video I'd like to just share some of my views on the progression, on the continual evolution of alleviating suffering and increasing, joy, right? Enthusiasm for life. And for me, that's about the 3 C's. And the 3 C's are connection, communication, and creativity. Right? So those are the 3 aspects, if you will, that I've been exploring more and more over these years, many years now, that I've been consciously supporting myself at, develop a different relationship with myself, and therefore all my relationships and my relationship and my reality and my world. Connection, right? Addiction happens when there is a lack of connection. Just because we have people in our life that we spend time with, that we talk to, doesn't mean there is that connection. There is the connection that is nurturing, that is sustaining, that is healing, that is what will help us to give meaning to our lives, right? What will help us to see the value of ourselves, of others, of life. And connection is definitely so important, right? Like, I went through all of my 20s on my own. Like, really. Like, yes, I spent some time with friends and acquaintances, but in comparison to, I would say, normal people, it's like less than 10% in my view, if you will. Because I really did just spend, and so I had a complete lack of connection. Now, in those years, I was able to start to really learn to develop a deeper connection with myself. And through that connection, as I started to come out again from that, that long period of going it alone, lone wolfing it, from the things I learned through that process of, getting to develop a more loving relationship with myself, I started to come out and connect differently with the world and with people. I started to pay attention, because I learned through those years who was actually going to help me. Basically, who was going to receive me, my authentic self? Who was going to show me their authentic self? Who was going to interact with me in respect, in dignity, right? In kindness, in, right, compassion, right? And it was much different than the people I was wanting to hang out with, to be a part of, to fit into, say, in my teens or early 20s. Right? So that was so interesting for me. I started developing deep friendships with people that I had not expected to develop friendships with. Right? And through that, learning so much about myself and other people, through developing connections with people from different cultures, of different skin colors, of different kinds of backgrounds, of different lifestyles. For example, with people that in the past, like 10 years prior to starting that, like learning to open up to different kinds of people, I would have judged them as, all sorts of things, right? Like, whatever it may be, right? My ego would say maybe not cool enough, or not this enough, or not that enough, or I'm too small, or I'm not this enough for that person, etc., right? And I worked on that throughout years of self-development and learning. And as I started to develop more authentic connections, those were the relationships that truly gave me, because I was actually being able to show more of myself. And that is one of the keys to alleviating that suffering, that deep suffering. the pain, the emotional pain, the mind pain, the mental pain and struggles, right? Having people in your life that care about you and that you care about. And it's a learning process to learn to allow yourself to be cared for by others and to learn to care about others. It's about being willing to take that first step, being willing to receive love, being willing to offer love and generosity. But that only comes genuinely when you learn to do that with yourself, right? First. The way I see it, it's always going to be an inside game, and an outside game. When I say work, I mean growth, right? I mean the opportunities to change the way we are. And so, right, as you do the work of learning to take better care of yourself, learning to not buy into your mind's chatter or the negativity that comes from the mind, learning to forgive yourself for making mistakes, learning to learn from your mistakes, right? Being generous to yourself, taking good care of yourself, and telling yourself the truth. That's a huge one. Be willing to recognize how often are you lying to yourself, right? And being willing to be honest with yourself. One step at a time. Start with the easy stuff. Like lifestyle choices, for example, and then the harder stuff. Is there relationships in my life? Do I feel that I can be myself with them? Are the relationships in my life actually working? Is the job I'm at actually what I really want to do, etc.? And be willing to be honest with yourself about these aspects, right? And then as you progress over time, you're gonna be willing to honor your truth, right? And find other ways. Right? There's gonna be relationships that you're going to realize that you're going to want to disconnect from, right? There's going to be maybe jobs or certain ways or lifestyle choices or activities that you may realize maybe that's not helping me anymore to alleviate pain. Like maybe whatever numbing agent, right? Whether it's shopping, spending money, earning money, alcohol, etc. All the regular stuff, right? And then, because as you do that, then you'll find people who also have that understanding and is on their own journey of growth, right? And then you can start to really share in that, right? And that really helps to, let me tell you, that's such a key to develop love with yourself and with other people. So connection, right? Over time, as I started developing different connection, I started going to all sorts of different workshops, spaces, whether it's people coming together to do self-development or healing work or just getting to know each other or sharing their passions, and right, all these different experiences will help in the experience of greater connection. So connection is so vital, right? The first C. And just by reflecting on the second and third C's, right? Communication and creativity. And to realize connection, of course, requires communication and creativity. It, of course, requires us to be willing to communicate authentically, vulnerably, honestly, right? As ourselves, right? And being willing to learn how to listen, because that is perhaps the bigger part of communication, is the ability to listen, right? Both to yourself and to others. Like in terms of listening to yourself, it's about recognizing all the various voices in yourself, right? There is that of the mind, of past conditions, of the voices you learned from parents or significant people in your life, and then there's the voice of your inner wisdom, deep down, your true you, your soul, your heart, your gut, your instincts, right? And over time, being willing to learn to listen so you can tell the difference and honor your truth rather than honoring the mind or ego. Right? And then listening to others. And as you do that, you can start to listen to others. And as you learn to listen to yourself, you will then, want to connect with people who are speaking their truth rather than from their egos or from their vanity or from their posturing or from their one-upmanship or from their, egoic language versus heart-centered, authentic expression, right? And of course, that requires creativity. Right? Like the creativity to learn to listen in a different way, right? Because it will require, whether it's maybe finding a book, whether it's watching YouTube videos, whether it's doing any sort of workshop, group work, learning from a coach or a healer or a counselor or a guide of any sort, right? So it requires creativity to change what we're doing now in order to try something different, to try something new, try something that will help us to experience a different quality with ourselves, right? So creativity, and because it goes deeper, right? As you take care of the basics, then you take that baseline that you can create with the basic foundational stuff, right? And then you start to the willingness to start to move forward and create the life you truly want. Because it really is about recognizing your mission, your journey, your purpose, all these qualities. For example, for myself, because I went through so much challenges and suffering, right? Like literally I was suicidal from like late teens to early 20s, and it was so painful, all on my own, no support, didn't know how to support myself. You know, just had a single mom who was suffering herself from debilitating suicidal depression, so she couldn't be there for me. All my life she wasn't able to be there for me emotionally, so I had no idea how to be there for myself emotionally. And therefore I didn't know how to be emotionally authentic with people, right? Besides maybe the one or two close friends who I actually showed more of myself with, and that was in high school years through things like, well, frankly, ecstasy, right? Like these medicines that help open up the heart and mind, right? Those are the only kind of relationships and experience I was able to do that with. But then I was judging myself for doing that, because I was believing the more popular culture and its damnation of all the things that can actually heal and open us up. So just by going through all that challenge and going through like the lack of support, and then over time learning to support myself, now I realize now the work I do is supporting other people through that process of learning to support themselves. And I get to live an amazing life. Like I get to do these kind of things where I get to go out in nature, right? And have connection to nature and communicate with nature, breathing its amazing air, right? And observe its creativity and just how creative it is at sorting out all the life, right? How it all is just this amazing creation, right? Just like the sky every morning as the sunrise hits, it's a beautiful work of art, right? So over time, one step at a time, just there's a progression that happens. It's not just about getting good sleep or finding the job that's right for you. It's over time, and it's about you finding your way, what's going to be fulfilling for you, and not just buying into what you were conditioned or suggested or taught is life supposed to be, right? So over time, as you move through your own self-healing support and realize the things that you've been able to support yourself through, then how do you want to support your world and other people, right? You may not want to work one-on-one with people or small groups like me, right? You may want to work with animals. You may want to support nature. You may want to support technology in a way that moves it towards a more heart-centered place. You may want to, work in food, work in organics, work with children, work with creativity, learn to create new toys, learn to create new ways of activity that will help, the world learn what you are willing to learn with yourself. Yeah, so, I used to think that I'm just such a plain person, I'm a nobody. That was my conditioning. I would used to watch things and hear people say things like, if I can do it, I know you can do it. But for me, whenever I heard that, I was like, not me. That's not possible for me, right? That was the story I told myself. And over time is learning to change that story. And now I get to help other people and my world change its story with my continual willingness, right? To keep deepening and creating connection, right? Being willing to keep communicating, learning to communicate my truth and receiving others' communications, right? And the creativity, to activate my creativity so they can move through connection and communication and continue to create and learn to create what I really want, right? So there are more layers. One step at a time, allow yourself to go deeper, right? Keep exploring, see what resonates with you, and follow what feels right for you and see if it's right for you. All right. I will expand on this future date. Let me know through if you have any more, if you have any questions, if there's any aspects you want me to deepen. Yeah, just let me know. Until next time, all the very best to you. Yes. See you again. Take good care.